What's up, y'all? So today's guest is Onyi Odunukwe. I've known Onyi for about 10 years. Super successful businessman. I've worked for Onyi before at both a supplement store and a tanning salon when I was in college. Both owned by Onyi, so I would work at both. He's now taken the tanning salon and owns 30 plus locations. You'll hear a lot more about that in the pod. He's Millionaire now. He was a two-time state champion bodybuilder. He trained me. He trained alongside me. Taught me a lot about both business and bodybuilding. Probably the most important thing for me in our relationship was the fact that he was my second ever sponsor as a bodybuilder and as a social media entrepreneur, and that helped me out a lot at the time, especially being in college. He's a great guy. I really think you guys are going to enjoy the podcast. He's got a wealth of knowledge to provide to you, so check it out. Welcome back to Sean Time. We got my boy Onyi here. The first thing I do with all guests is do like a check-in. You give a rating 1 to 10 on how you're feeling right now, like mentally and physically, and then I'll do the same. If you want to go first, you can, or I can go first.
I'll let you go first.
Okay. So for me, I just did one of these like last week, and it hasn't changed a whole lot for me. So mentally, pretty good. I'd say a 9. I mean, it's pretty hard to ever get a 10, right? Like mentally, I always feel like I can improve different things, and being a Christian, I feel like you're always kind of chasing something that you may not ever even achieve, right? Like you're trying to sin as little as you can, but none of us are perfect or ever going to be that. So 10 would be hard to be, but I feel like a 9. I feel like I'm in a pretty good place. I feel like I have a pretty close relationship with the Lord, and still working on the finances and whatnot, trying to wrap my head around the business aspect of things in a few different ways, which part of what this interview will help me with, talking to you, since you're pretty good in those areas. Physically, 8 or a 9. As you know, we bodybuilded together and lifted a lot, and I still lift weights a lot. So elbows a little achy right now, shoulders a little achy. I'm trying to work around that. Take some time off here and there, which is tough. I'm not really someone who likes to take the days off.
For sure.
So 8 or 9 on physical and 9 on mental. So what would you say your ratings are?
Physical, I would probably say like a 5.
Okay.
So I'm sitting about 285 currently, which is probably about 20 pounds over where I'm at my best. Also, I do boxing, which is one of my New Year's resolutions was to learn two new hobbies or skills.
Yeah.
So I do that for a little cardio. Going to the gym wise, try to make it 2 to 3 times a week. I don't really ever actually make it 2 to 3 times a week, so probably say a 5. But I mean, I feel good. So I'm just not doing the things I know I need to do. And obviously, as a former bodybuilder, I know I can do a lot more. I just don't have the will to really try to get it done. So I'd like to change that. But mentally, I'd probably say 9.5. I mean, feel good. Feel obviously happy with where I am in life in terms of job, relationship, spiritually, friends, just all the way around. I feel the first time in my life that I actually feel a sense of like a balance. Because
important.
Because I've worked 15 hours a day for a decade plus, and it's the first time that I feel like I work, I can shut it off and, kind of have a sense of balance compared to just always being on, at all times. So
yeah, I like the score, especially the mental, right?
Yeah.
So that the physical is part of why it's a 5 right now, and then the mental's a 9.5. Do you think that if you add enough to get like that 5 up to 8 or a 9, do you think that would take away from your mental in any way, or do you think it's only going to help it? Like focusing that much on getting the health part up?
I think that it would, I don't think it would take anything away from it. I just think, because most people see me, they're like, oh, like if I go to the gym, people will still say something or, looks like I'm in shape in a sense, right?
Yeah.
But for me, like the measuring stick or where I like grade myself, because, having won statewide competitions and gone to nationals and done pretty well, I grade myself there. So I'm comparing myself to my old self. And if I'm comparing myself to my old self, then, I look like shit.
Right.
So
that's the life of a bodybuilder, right? It's hard to ever feel
great. So it's more of a mental thing than it is really an actual true physical thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. And then two is, it's just hard for me. I mean, most old bodybuilders, it's hard for them to keep the weight on once they're done.
Right.
For me, it's the opposite.
Okay.
So if I just sit around, I'll be 300.
Yeah. I feel their pain on that. Me keeping it on. Stuff.
Yeah. So for me, it's hard. Even when my last show, which was North Americans, dehydrated, dieting for 20 weeks. I was on stage at over 250. So
huge.
That's 3% body fat at 250. So obviously, when you're not eating 7 times a day, working out twice a day, doing an hour of cardio, taking all the supplements and everything else, then I'm just a bigger person regardless. So being able to stay, if I can get to like that 260 range, I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
Fit my clothes really well. I feel slim at 260.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, not many people can say that. Slim at 260, but you got some great genetics for bodybuilding and things like that. So, that's a cool thing in itself. Overall, do you miss being on the supplements? And by supplements, you know what I mean with the bodybuilding, like the
no.
the extra things you take.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
You probably feel a little healthier being off of all of it. It's as far as internally, maybe not lifting weights.
I never felt a difference, honestly.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
So it's just more of just like an energy thing, but
yeah,
I never really felt the difference. I mean, for me, I'm the type of person like regardless of like gym or bodybuilding or not bodybuilding, if I like set my mind to something, I'm gonna achieve it. Like I'm singularly focused on that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I retired, I probably didn't work out for 4 years, honestly.
Yeah, on to the next thing.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, cool, that's done. What's the next thing?
Yeah. Serial entrepreneur, would you call it that?
Ish? Yeah. I mean, that's ish, yeah. It's just more just setting a goal. Like up until recently, I lacked the art of achievement. So it's like you accomplish something and you're not satisfied. So, you're fighting so hard to accomplish one thing, and then whenever you accomplish it, you're looking for the next thing to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. So
you can never sit your ass down somewhere and just be satisfied with, the work that's been done. The last probably year, one thing that I've really mastered, I feel like, is gratitude and the art of achievement. So it's like with my team, because to me, I don't believe in anybody ever being self-made.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's the people around me, from what my parents instilled in me, friends and mentors and whoever has poured into me, and then also God opening doors and letting me walk through the door. He can open the doors, he doesn't force you to walk through it. So being able to just be grateful for where I'm at, what I have, who's in my life, the things that have been accomplished. And when you sit back and you reflect on that, I mean, it's big. It changes the perspective on everything,
Yeah.
So
I definitely, to your point, I definitely appreciate a lot of the things I feel like you taught me back in the day, and training together, being my trainer, working for you, different things like that. I mean, there's multiple lessons from over that time that I still remember to this day. And some things that I even didn't listen to, which we won't necessarily go into all the details of. You probably know the different situations that if I did listen, I would have ended up better because of it. I feel like, so yeah, a lot of that matters a lot. So, moving on a little bit. So tell people just generally in your own words, if you're going to tell people what you do, how would you say it?
So typically when somebody says like, what do you do? Like say I'm in Vegas and I'm betting big or something. Somebody's like, what do you do? Because they want to know like how you have the money you have.
Right.
I typically downplay for the most part what I do, but for the purpose of the podcast, I'll
elaborate.
Yeah. I'm the CEO of a Sun Spa franchise, so I'm a franchisor. Franchise started in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's called Glow Tanning, so we're in 11 states, 50 plus locations. And so basically, what I do is a Sun Spa is what some people would call a tanning salon, but it's not just a tanning salon. We have actual spa services, then also tanning and spray tanning. So it's actually like a true sun spa. It's an automated spa. So right now, really main focus is franchising. put a hold on franchising for the last year to almost 18 months because we just grew so fast. Started franchising a couple years ago, and we've have 30 franchisees, and people are growing pretty quickly. We have franchisees with 6 locations, some with single locations, and everybody's wanting to grow, and we wanted to make sure that we had the infrastructure in place before we went from 50 to 250.
Right.
So
has that been easier or harder than you thought it would be to expand like that?
It's been pretty easy, honestly.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, because we're the number one most profitable sun spa in the country. So, and
That's huge.
yeah, if you look at the FDD's franchise disclosure, document, that's what it stands for. You have to put your financials in it. So anybody looks at the financials, from banks to, potential investors, it speaks for itself. And so we have a ton of people that want to come on board, but we've been pretty selective on who we let come on board, and also it's not really about money. It's more about who could actually operate the business or has someone to operate the business for them.
Right.
Because I have a million people who, hey, I have the money, I want to invest in, in Glow and, whatever. And that's why I always say, hey, it's not a good investment, because it's really more about time than it is about actual money. Because if it was just about money, I would have 500 myself,
Yeah.
So
I'm sure that matters a lot too when it comes down to letting someone put your name and pair it with theirs, and if they don't run it right, or if they, I'm sure that selection process matters to you.
For sure, 100%.
Your name's on it.
Yeah, we've never had a store fail. Every single store's profitable. So for us, we don't just. It's not because I don't do what I do for the money. So we don't. We're very selective on who we bring on board.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that they're actually going to follow everything that we do down to the T. Because an example I give is, you can go to McDonald's in Alaska, or you can go to McDonald's in Alabama. It's all the same. A Big Mac's the same regardless of where you go.
Right.
So we don't have any deviation from what we do, regardless of where we're at.
So first topic, like to discuss is upbringing, and I'll discuss this with a lot of the people I have on the podcast, because I feel like people come from such different backgrounds and their parenting situations and just the culture they grew up in and things like that, and it always affects how they act as an adult.
Yeah.
I feel like when you look at adults, a lot of times the things that you see in them, like a lot of us might treat each other a little less harshly if we saw that kid that went through something, as a younger kid. Maybe that's why they are the way they are now.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't give excuses for certain behavior, but at the same time, that's why
100%.
people do what they do. So, describe your upbringing a little bit. I know you didn't start out in America, correct?
No, I was actually born in Boston.
Oh, you were born in Boston.
Yeah,
But
I
you
lived
were in
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yeah, middle school. Yeah.
Okay.
So born in Boston, and my mom was born in England, and then my dad was born in Nigeria. But both of them grew up in Nigeria together, and they came here 9 months before I was born. So, both my parents are doctors. My mom has a PhD in psychology, and then my dad's a surgeon. So upbringing, just middle class, honestly, but African. So anybody who has an African parent knows it's just different. The expectation, it's very, in America probably, it's what people think it's like to grow up Asian is what it's like to grow up African. Because
this like stereotype of it, yeah.
Yeah, because anybody can Google it. Nigerians are the most educated and most successful subgroup in America.
I've heard that before, actually.
Yeah.
I can't remember where, but
yeah. So it's like, the expectation is you're going to go to school, you're going to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, and that's really it. Don't come home with anything besides A's. There's just very strict. There is no, hey, party, drinking, smoking, doing anything. This is what it is. They don't really care about sports. So it's just different. And also didn't grow up spoiled at all. Like when it came to school, food, things like that, whatever you want, they'll pay for it. But when it comes to, hey, I want these designer jeans, hell no. Like there's not. You have to hustle and learn how to get for yourself. So
Yeah.
I had my first job when I was 13. My brother had his first job when he was 13.
I dig that.
We've just been hustlers since day one, and so at the time, my parents, friends, are also doctors, and their kids are driving Mercedes at 16. I'm driving a beat up 93 Acura Vigor in the mid 2000s.
That's the year I was born.
Yeah.
93.
so at the time you don't appreciate it.
Right.
But those things are the reason why, me and my siblings are hustlers, and all three of us are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So
that definitely answers my next question. Is you do think it had a huge positive impact on your success and your mental
100%.
how you approach life.
100%. Even though both my parents are not entrepreneurs at all.
Yeah.
But just the upbringing in terms of they're not gonna give you shit. Like they're gonna do for you what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not gonna give you anything that's not necessary. And if you wanted you grew up in a middle class neighborhood, and at the time you want the Jabos or the Echo jeans or the Jordans or whatever. My parents aren't spending $200 on no Jordans.
Mm-hmm.
There's people back home starving. So they're very charitable. So they'll I'll send back $1,000 back home to pay for these people's school fees or pay for this person to eat before I give you $200 to go pay for some Jordans. So we still wanted those nice things. I like nice things. My brother likes nice things. My sister likes nice things. So for us to go get it, we had to go get a job, and we had to hustle.
Right. Look at that chain. Of course he likes nice things. Look at him.
So we had to do what we had to do, and that's what we did. So if they gave us everything, we both know the kids that were in high school and they were given everything.
Oh yeah.
And those kids, some of them might have a decent job now, and they're making $50,000-$60,000 and doing whatever, but they don't have any drive to them because everything's always been given to them their whole life.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what I've always felt like. Even at a young age, I feel like I realized this for whatever reason, that the ultimate parenting, you usually see one or the other. The parents can't give the kids all of what they need, or they can, and if they do, they just give them everything, but they don't teach them along the way.
The biggest mix of it, and one thing I've realized is if you talk about the black community and why poor black people don't have what they can't achieve, and people want to say, oh, just pull yourself up from your bootstraps. That's all bullshit. It's people don't just pull themselves up from the bootstraps. It's no, the problem is that those people in those neighborhoods have never seen anyone be a doctor. So why does everybody want to be a doctor or a rapper or an athlete? Because the only people who've made it out of those circumstances are rappers and athletes.
Right.
So
that's what they look up to.
That's who they look up to, because that's the only people that they've seen make it out.
Right.
If they saw Jamal across the street go and be a doctor and pull up in a new Benz, then they want to be a doctor and pull up in a new Benz.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my parents didn't give me all the stuff, but we grew up where everybody else had all the stuff.
Yeah.
So I was able to see that stuff, and I wanted that. And also at the same time, my parents also are doctors, so it's okay, I went to school to be a doctor.
Right.
Because I saw that they could achieve. So it's even for my daughter, my sister's a lawyer that owns her own law firm. Her husband's a pharmacist that owns his own pharmacy. My brother owns a bunch of commercial real estate and is a broker and owns his own brokerage.
Yeah.
And other businesses. Her dad does what he does. Her grandparents are this. Her mom's a nurse practitioner. So when her growing up, she thinks literally she can do anything she wants. So there is no limit to what she feels like she can achieve, because she sees it all around her, right? So it's being able, the mind's a very powerful thing, and so is the tongue. So if you can think it, you can do it, right? But then also instilling the hustle in the kids is also just not giving them everything that they want. So it's hey, if you want something, you have to go earn it.
Right.
So those are the two things to me that I've kind of come to the realization. It's being able to see something to know that you can achieve it, And then, so not limiting yourself mentally, and then also instilling the hustle in them. And some kids, they get everything and they're still hustlers, right?
Yeah.
But that's very few.
Yeah.
So it's like, because if you feel like you can, go to, if you're LeBron James and I'm your homeboy, we grew up together, and I know that I can come to you and get up to $100,000 anytime I wanted, why would I hustle? I'll just keep, even if I want to hustle, I'm saying, okay, well, I have this business idea, but rather than me trying to figure out how to make it work, I'm like, I'm just going to go to Chrome and go get $100,000.
Right.
And I'll start my own business, blah, blah. And if everything goes to shit, I'll just go back to you and get $100,000.
Yeah. Wasn't yours anyways.
Exactly.
So,
so you have to, that's really the two biggest things to me. It's like being able to see mentally, right, that I can achieve basically anything I want to achieve. And then two, having the hustle. And to have the hustle typically is not giving them everything that they want, making them earn it.
Yeah.
More than anything else, yeah.
Yeah, it's super valuable. I feel like I grew up. I don't want to make it seem like I struggled whatsoever. Like growing up, I always had whatever I needed. Thank goodness for my parents working for it and putting me in that situation. But I grew up with split parents, and I feel like I got two very different
parenting styles.
Yeah, they both gave me everything that I needed, but my mom, who I lived with growing up, and my stepdad, over the top, everything and more, like whatever, and above and beyond what we needed, and handed me pretty much whatever, I wanted as a kid growing up. And then when I would go to my dad's, which was just every other weekend, but it had an influence on me, and it's my dad, I'm a boy, so I want to be like my dad and whatnot. He was like, me and my sister come for the weekend, and we go to the grocery store, and hopefully my dad don't mind that I put this out there. I'll probably ask him before I fully put it out there, but it'd be like, okay, here's $40, I'm gonna send you two in the grocery store, I'm gonna stay in the truck, this is what y'all are eating for the weekend, whatever y'all get, go in there, you pick, but you're only eating whatever you get. You buy some ice cream, you come back and you want like a real meal that you're not eating, things like that. Or if we wanted a gift for Christmas, what do y'all want? I'll get you whatever you want. We'd pick something. Okay, you come home with straight A's all this semester, then you can
but
get
your dad,
that.
if I had to be honest, your dad did the better job.
Yeah.
Even though your stepmom and your stepdad and your mom thought that they were doing more in a sense, and they did more financially, I guess.
Yeah.
But that in the long run, it's the lessons that your dad taught that actually would be better, in my opinion. I'm not saying that either one did a bad job, but
yeah, and neither am I. But I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
for sure.
But at the time, it's like you're gonna appreciate your mom and your stepdad more because you're a kid and you don't understand how those things stick with you. But no, that's what for me. It's like, I mean, shit. My kid already has $4+ million plaza, and if I passed today, she would be set for life.
Yeah. Beautiful little kid, by the way.
Appreciate it, thank you. But I don't, her, and I don't plan on having more kids. I'm not. While I'm here, I'm not really giving them anything. You have to learn to really get on your own, because I would be failing you if I gave you everything. Because then you just come to me and say, hey, I want this, and I basically control your life. Everything you want, you have to come to me. If I'm not happy with what you're doing in your life at that point, then I just tell you no. And you don't want that, right? So making them learn how to want to go and get for themselves. As a kid, she's 2.5 years old, so whatever she wants now, just give it to her.
Yeah.
But when she gets a little bit older, that's just not gonna, that's not how it's gonna be. Yeah. You have to earn whatever you want. So.
Yeah, I think that's good principles to instill. It definitely made the impact, like you said, on how my dad handled those situations. And another thing, in my mom's defense, she didn't have much growing up, and so she went over. You
usually overcompensate.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
What she didn't have.
Yeah.
And then I also saw times where maybe we didn't necessarily. I mean, we never were out on the street type of broke or anything, but there were times where my mom didn't necessarily have just this, wealth of money, But when we did want something, she still would hustle and go out of her way to make sure we had it. So I did see that hustle in her. That definitely had an impact on me as well. But we always got what we wanted on that side of things. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So with that being said, is there anything that you would say that you would do differently than the way you were raised for your little one?
Yeah. No, I would express. I will, and I do actually express love more. My parents loved the shit out of me. Like my parents loved me. You could tell. Anybody who's around me and my parents, you could tell that they do. Mm-hmm. But growing up, they never said I love you.
Is that a Nigerian thing?
Yeah, it's a Nigerian. It's a cultural thing. So yeah. So I mean, I don't think my dad's ever said it. So which it doesn't matter. Right, mm-hmm. Like I'd rather you treat me like you love me than tell me that you love me. Mm-hmm. But at the same time,
for sure.
Especially with girls, I think it's actually super important that you also express it because, more than half the women in America have daddy issues, and even if they have dads, they still have daddy issues because of certain little things or whatever.
Right.
Whether it's control, like I said, if your dad is paying your bills, then he basically controls you. He pays your bills until you're 24 years old. So then now you want to replace your dad with a man who's doing the same thing. It's like, for me, it's just expressing, love to my daughter and letting her know, like, no matter what, your dad loves you, and verbally saying those things.
Right.
But then also through actions as well. So that's probably it. I mean, parents were tough, but they were. And the older with my daughter, completely different. So
it always is with the kids to the
but
grandkids.
It seems like that. But it's an extreme. It's an extreme on how different it is.
Yeah.
So if I try to get on my daughter, my parents like, no, leave her alone. Like, it's just complete extreme difference.
Mm-hmm.
They're also older, and that's their granddaughter, so whatever. But yeah, that'd probably be it.
Yeah.
It's just more verbal affirmation.
I got you. Yeah, my mom even, I don't have kids yet. My mom even does it with my dog. When she's over here, I can't get on him for anything. She's like, leave him alone. I'm like,
Wait till you have kids. It really is insane.
I'm sure it'll be the same, especially with my mom, for sure. So obstacles. Let's talk obstacles for a little bit. Or before I met you, you had a situation where you had to run in with the law.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that a little bit and how that molded you.
Yeah.
Or how you overcame that situation, how you got to the situation.
Yeah. So basically, got into altercation with a football player on campus when I was in school, whatever. He totaled my car and beat my car, totaled my car. And I worked 40 hours a week. I worked since I was 13 years old, had a work permit. So I was 19, going on 20 at the time. And
medical school, right? Or
I was
on your way to?
Yeah, I was on my way to med school. I was a junior in college. I started college at 17. Should have graduated 21. I actually just got my degree, so.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
I didn't know
that. So basically, anyways, he totaled my car. I had liability insurance. I worked at the hospital overnight as a tech, and based on the fight, it was on ESPN. It was Bobby Petrino's first season. They fired me from my job. The insurance wouldn't cover it because I had liability. So I went to my parents and asked if they would pay the $8,000 to get the car fixed. They said no, which is just part of their parenting style, because they're not going to give you shit. That's you got into a fight, you got to handle it.
Right.
So, anyways, so I started selling some weed and to get my car out, and eventually obviously easily made the money to get my car out, and got addicted to the fast money, and ended up getting in trouble, and had to go and do a little time to pay for my crimes, I guess.
Right.
So this is actually the first time that I've ever talked about this like ever publicly. So so I'd overcome it. You know, I mean, I just first things first is accountability. So it's like, you know, when it happened and everything else, I had 9 co-defendants. Every single one of them was white besides me. I'm in Arkansas. I'm going to med school, ready to take the MCAT. Did my mission, all my all my community service, everything I needed to do. I was in nursing school, about to graduate, and I was the only one who got sentenced to prison. So, you know, obviously you got the racial element of it, which I was upset about at the time. And then, you know, just feeling, you know, really, because feeling more like a victim, like, hey, everybody else got away. You know, they didn't get away, but, you know, probation or boot camp or whatever else it was. Mm-hmm. And I was the only person who really got punished. Yeah. And never been in trouble before. So it's not like, hey, you had a record and they didn't have a record. You know, one of my co-defendants, his dad ran for governor that year. So he was a prosecutor. Connected. Yeah, so you know, all of them connected, whatever. The judge, to be honest, the judge is racist. So, and so he's been in there. He was appointed by Ronald Reagan, been in there for 30 years. This was federal. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I know he was racist is because I had my cellmate in jail, whatever, had the same exact charges I did, had a previous felony, which in the federal, you have guidelines. So they have the top is how many convictions you have, misdemeanors and felonies, and then the bottom is months. So based on the charge, so you can literally just go and you go to the guideline. So he was supposed to get 72 months minimum up to 86 months. And I was supposed to get 44 months up to 60 months. Mm-hmm. I got sentenced first. He basically made it seem like I was El Chapo. You got caught with, money and weed, and you had, I had some guns that were in my name, legally purchased or whatever, but because it was the vicinity of drugs, then it's not, you're not supposed to do that, whatever. So he made us, fined me $10,000, sentenced me to 51 months in federal prison. And, and that was it, three years of probation or whatever after I get out. And then my cellmate goes to sentencing. 2 weeks later, the same exact judge. And he's like, it's just some weed. This is what he tells him. He gets sentenced to less time than me when he was supposed to get sentenced. He went below the guideline. Mm-hmm. And he got sentenced to like maybe 3.5 years when I got sentenced to 4.5. And he actually was supposed to get sentenced to more time.
White guy, I presume.
Yeah, white guy. Cool dude, whatever. He's back in prison now.
Really?
Yeah. So anyways, obviously with all those circumstances and everything else, I was a little felt more like the victim and everything else. And then when I got there, I'm a GED teacher and a tutor, and 90% of the guys in there didn't grow up with both their parents in the same household. 90% of the guys in there did not graduate from high school. So I went to college for 4 years previous to that. So to me, I was like, man, I'm better than these guys, blah, blah. And it took about 1.5 years, and then I realized, I said, man, I'm actually worse. I had every opportunity. I had, 2 good educated parents that, supported me. I had, I went to college. I had every single opportunity to not be here, and I'm still here. A lot of those guys have zero opportunity. Yeah. Their dad was in prison. Their mom was a crackhead. They, regardless of white, black, Hispanic, whatever, right, this is what they grew up in. Mm-hmm. This is what they know. They literally had almost no chance of not ending up in the place that they're in. Yeah. I had every chance to not end up there, and I still ended up there. So when I came to that realization, I said, okay, cool. What are you going to do about it? Previous to going to prison, I never read a book a day in my life. Through college, through high school, Cliff Notes, So I probably read 300 books, a lot of, self-help books, and I had a composite book that I wrote down all my goals for when I got out, and every single goal that I wrote down I achieved. The last goal was finishing my degree, which I just achieved, but
That's amazing, man.
Appreciate it. So, start a business, be Mr. Arkansas, just all the different things that I had on the list. I just kind of knocked it off. So it was just recommitting myself and just saying, okay, cool, like, you're here. What are you going to do with the time that you're here? How are you going to mentally prepare yourself to, when you get out, make sure that you never end up back here and actually achieve? Because, I can't go get a job at Walmart. So, because I couldn't pass a background check. And even just every single thing that I do, if I want to go get an apartment, I can't get an apartment because I'm a felon. So I can buy the apartment complex, but I can't rent the apartment. So it's like, for me, it's like, every single thing that happens, and really, honestly, to even just kind of speak on it and forget about myself, the whole system is just really messed up in terms of, obviously, I was able to overcome and do whatever, but, for people, you can't even get an SBA loan if you're found. So all this EIDL money, everything else, I wasn't eligible to get any of it, which I didn't need it anyway. But I wasn't eligible to get any of it. So it's like somebody goes to prison, does their time, wants to get out and better their lives. They make it like they almost want you to go back to doing what you were doing before, because they make it so hard for you to do anything different. Right. So even just a place to live, it's so, like, I own a lot of property, so thank God that I'm able to afford to buy something. But if I wasn't, what would I do? Right. You can't even rent. So I mean, you can rent, but the place that you rent is filled with people that you are not even allowed to be around, because if you get out, you're on parole or you're on probation, you're not allowed to be around other felons. So then you go and you're literally, it's a system that's made for recidivism, for you to continuously go back, and it's just a big old cycle. They just recycle inmates, and that's really a system. But thank God, that it's really about vision and seeing that, obviously there's more, to life than being in there or whatever. And kind of, I guess, the way that it impacted me is just, I don't freak out about anything. I'm a big gambler. Like, and I'm not talking about, like, just in Vegas. I'm talking about, in business, I could put all my chips on the table, because at the end of the day, I've been to where I didn't have shit.
So you feel like you're going to be fine either way, right?
I can lose everything. I'll lose everything today. I'll get it back tomorrow. So it doesn't matter. So, I can basically, in my mind, I can achieve anything I want to achieve. If I can envision it, I can achieve it. So that's why I'm willing to put the chips on the table, because I've done it before.
Right. Yeah, I highly respect that, man. From where you were to where you've come, even where you started on the trajectory up, come back down, like just those ebbs and flows of life, and still having that mindset the whole time, or at least after you felt like you learned it once you got in, that I highly respect it, and I want to emulate that in my own life, you know what I mean? So the next portion of the podcast, we do a little game where I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios or just people or things, and you have to pick one or the other. But you can't describe why you pick it, you just got to pick what you think. So the first one, would you rather own the Cowboys or the Yankees?
Yankees.
Okay. MJ or LeBron?
MJ.
Retire today or work until the day you die?
Work until the day I die.
Best friend who inspires and pushes you, or a best friend who's completely loyal?
Completely loyal.
Beach or mountain vacations?
Beach. I don't think any black person would say mountain. But
Believe it or not, my girlfriend would say mountain. And it blows my mind. But
she's mixed though, right?
Yeah. She's from Sweden, and there's a lot of like that forestry and like.
That's the white part of her talking.
That's hilarious. Legalize weed or not?
Legalize, yeah.
All right. Window seat or aisle seat on a plane?
Aisle.
Aisle, okay. Obama or Biden?
Obama.
Okay. Bodybuilding or business as far as what you enjoy?
Business.
Business. All right. All right, so the next topic I want to talk about is expansion. Kind of going back to business a little bit. So, in your opinion and in your experience, once someone has a business and they start a business, what are the keys to growth and expanding it? And it's kind of a broad and vague question, but even if you just give your experience of it, what do you think keys to expansion would be?
It's all about the operation. So it's like if you read the E-Myth, which is one of the best business books. Basically,
what's it called again?
The E-Myth.
E-Myth.
If you have one location, you treat it as if you have 500. So it's making sure that you have the operation down packed. So that's like, training, just everything, like whatever it is, inventory process. Well, it depends on, what the type of business is. So obviously retail is different from like a service business or service-based business or anything else. But, just making sure that you have the complete process down for whatever it is that you're trying to do. Let's say you have one location and going to 2 locations, that's double the work. If you have a process in place, then it feels like nothing. Like I can open 10 stores right now and it's not going to feel like really anything. As long as I have the operation in place. And sometimes the operation falls apart because it's not, ready for the expansion that you have, but it should be. Or sometimes people quit. So it's like you want to automate everything as much as possible.
I remember you even talking about that back when you had the one location of Glow when I worked for you, automating even back then with the software that we installed and whatnot.
Yep, you want to automate as much as possible because you don't want to rely on people because people leave.
Right.
So, and I'm happy when people leave. I mean, I have relationships I've probably had 3,000 employees over, the last 12 plus years I've been doing it. And when somebody leaves, I'm proud of them, and I go to the weddings, and I still communicate via Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, and I like to see people who I've made an impact in their life, and now they're going off to bigger and better things.
Right. Absolutely. Staying on the topic of business, having a lot of experience in it now at this point, what would you say that your keys are to balancing work and life?
So having the operation, having a good team, but not just having a good team, it's also realizing that not everything has to be done today. So not everything. So you do your best, and then just realize that your best is good enough. So it's like, if something falls apart, okay, did anybody die? Did anybody go to jail? Nope. All right, we'll be okay.
Right.
Like, let's do the best that we can to fix whatever the situation is. But are we going to sit down and freak out, a level code freak out every single time something goes wrong? No.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives the balance in a sense. And then also growing smart. So for me, it's about adding value. So if I make, I'm not gonna say how much I make, but let's just say let's call it $1 million, right?
Yeah.
If I make $1 million, or actually let's not even use that example. We'll just use the example of tens. There's no difference between $1 million and $2 million. If you made $1 million a year and $2 million a year, there's nothing that you can do with $2 million that you couldn't do with 1. There's a big difference between 1 and 10. There's no difference between 10 and 20. There's a big difference between 10 and 100. So if you want to fly private everywhere you go, if you have 10 million, you can do it. If you have 20 million, you can do it. That literally does not make a difference, right? If you want to own a $2 million house, you can own that making $1 million a year. You can own that making $2 million a year. Literally makes no difference. So your lifestyle doesn't change if you double. If you own 10 locations and you make $2 million a year, if you own 20 locations, you make $4 million a year. Literally changes nothing. You just added double the workload, right? So for me, it's just like it's the benefit, the return is not worth the work unless I'm basically 10xing.
Yeah.
So if I'm not increasing, my income substantially, then it's just not worth, adding that extra work to my plate. I'd rather be happy, enjoy my family, my friends, my girl, and just focus on my daughter, and just focus on what's important in life rather than constantly trying to just incrementally tick. The other thing is also being patient. Deals come up, things happen. I've always, I opened Glow during the Great Recession, and then during COVID, doubled the size of the company. So for me, we're kind of in a recession already. Everything's down besides housing, and housing will be down here in the next year, in my opinion. But in this next recession, I'll be very aggressive as well.
Yeah.
So definitely wait, be patient, and don't force anything. That's one of my biggest rules. I don't force anything.
Okay. So you would keep that 10 rule that you're talking about at all levels of business, even from when you're starting out to when you're, or are you mainly talking about once you're comfortable.
Okay. Like when I say comfortable, I'm saying like very comfortable. Like once you've achieved the goal that you want to achieve, and you are at a point where it's like anything that I want, I can go get, then what's the point of continuing to just make an incremental increase? Right. Like if I can add 150K to my income yearly by doing something, I won't do it.
Yeah. Like
dead ass, I won't do it because I'm like, it's not even worth my time.
Right.
Even if it literally only takes an hour out of my day, it's not worth my time.
Right.
So that's
if you weren't making any, but you had an opportunity to make that from not making much in the beginning, you would take it then because you're growing 100%,
100%. Yeah. So it's almost like the further you get along, I would say the older you get, but it's not about age. It's more just like where you are in maturity in terms of your business.
Mm-hmm.
The further along you get, the less risk you take, right?
Yeah.
So when I was 21 years old, I put all my chips on the table because I don't care if I lose everything. I don't have shit anyway. So if I lose anything, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But your dad's not going to go and gamble everything he has when he has, kids to feed, and he has someone to take care of at home.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go put all your chips on the table because you have more to lose, right? So for me, it's like I'm willing to gamble and put my chips on the table, but at the same time, it's not necessary. It's like in Vegas, right? I've lost well over 100K in 2 days. I've won over 100K in 2 days.
Yeah.
The losing 100K hurts a lot more than winning. The high of winning 100K is way lower than the low of losing 100K.
Yeah.
Because if you win 100K, for me, it's just like, this is cool, like whatever. But if you lose 100K, you're like, damn, like I worked hard for that. I could have done this with that, blah blah, whatever.
Right.
So it's like when you get to a certain level, it's just not the same. It's not worth the effort that it takes to make that. So you're just more like, hey, I'm just gonna enjoy my life and wait for opportunities that really increase your wealth. It's almost like if you went to, I'm not comparing myself to Warren Buffett at all, but if you went to Warren Buffett, he's not going to go and do deals that don't really add value to his company.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he's doing deals, he's buying Geico, he's Dairy Queen. He owns all of these, he's doing real deals. He's not doing deals that, hey, we can buy this 5-plex complex, because they do real estate too, so I'm not going to buy this, 5 duplexes and we're going to make $1 million on it. It's like that to them is a rounding error. Like it doesn't add any value to the true value to the company. So like you get into a certain level, if the deal is not worth it, then you just don't do it. But at the beginning, you do whatever you have to do to get to where you want to, because a lot of times people feel like they're above doing something, and you just got to chew what's on your plate.
A lot of knowledge, a lot of value for the viewers in what you said. That's the whole point of this for me is trying to bring value to, both myself and the viewers, because I want to kind of approach this from the standpoint of we're growing together. I'm not here to try to tell people how to live their lives. I'm just trying to bring value from the guest and learn from the guest myself. So last topic that we'll go over. So when you have money like you have, how do you tell that a woman wants you for you?
It's pretty easy. So that was one of the things that scared me when I first had some sense of money.
Uh-huh.
Like my ex, I told her that I was a data analyst when we met. But one thing you realize is it doesn't matter, because once you give them a certain lifestyle, then that's just what's expected. And then on top of being what's expected, it might not start off about the money, but it'll end up about the money. So it doesn't even matter. So you just have to find the person that's best match for you. But second, what does it matter? If it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you this. What is the number one thing that a man looks for in a woman? Just one word.
One word?
Yes.
Loyalty?
No.
Support?
No. You, and I know why, but the answer is peace.
Oh, well, that's it.
Yeah.
I've used that word a lot lately. Actually,
Yeah.
Speaking about my relationship now,
Yeah.
even to my parents and whatnot.
But-
Peace, I use that a lot. So I'm
Yeah.
surprised that didn't come to my mind. That's a great word for
the
it.
peace is the one thing,
Yeah.
because a man, a real man, not some dude that's, with a girl to have a place to stay, but a man that is taking the male. Because a female, I'm actually a feminist, so like a female or a man, there's male roles and there's female roles. Just because you're a man doesn't mean you have to take the male role. Just because you're a female doesn't mean you have to take the female role, right? So a female can be the breadwinner, but if you're the breadwinner and everything else, that means you're taking the male role. That means the dude that you're with needs to take the female role. She's not going to come home making 6 figures and then go wash the dishes and cook for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the respect level is different. You're not going to go and say, I'm the head of this household when she's making 6 figures or you're making $20,000.
Yeah.
No, she pays the bills. What she says goes. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, they don't have respect for you. Why should they have respect for you? You're, like, respect me as the man, but you're not being the man.
Yeah.
Does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So, thing is that when it comes to money and women and everything else, it's like, it really doesn't matter. I mean, the one thing that a woman wants, in my opinion, from a man in a relationship is really stability. And stability a lot of times has to do with finances. So, hey, if anything happens or I have kids and I can't work, or when I do have kids, even if I can work, can he take care of the household? Can I stay home for 3 years and raise my kids? I don't have to send them to daycare. Can he do those things? And that's fair. Like, why do we care that a woman cares how financially stable that you are, right? Because at the end of the day, how do we judge women? You answer that. How do we judge women? Like, when you're picking out a woman that you want to be with, how do you judge them? Say it's a first glance / first date.
How they carry themselves, or are you attracted to them? I mean, that's
how they look. Period.
Yeah.
How they look.
And that's part of how you carry yourself.
Yeah,
right?
but how they look, right?
Yeah.
We're in the age of Hinge, Tinder, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see how they carry themselves. You're seeing as a filtered picture.
On the date, you would. I mean.
Yeah, but it's how they look.
Yeah, for sure.
So why can't a woman say, how do I know he's not with me just because of how I look?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Same as the money you're saying?
Yes. There's literally no difference.
Right.
So it's like she might have first been attracted to you because of the money, and you might have first been attracted to her because of how she looks. But at the end of the day, if you sit down with me, what keeps you here? Because there's a lot of niggas with money. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of attractive women.
There's a lot of attractive women. Batshit crazy. So it's like how do they have what is going to keep you there regardless of whatever beauty they have, right? And also beauty fades. And then as a man, do you have what's going to keep them there regardless of the money, because money goes away sometimes. Also, just when you're dating them, like, are they constantly asking for things or expect you to pay for things? Me, myself, I'm a provider, so regardless if I'm with my homeboys, my family, my girl, whatever, I always pretty much pay. Like, we go out to eat, or I've been out to eat with you.
Yeah, I can attest to that for
Yeah,
sure.
I pretty much always pay. That's just how my dad was when I was growing up, so that's how I am. I feel uncomfortable when people pay for me, right? But
I feel uncomfortable when you pay for me, but I also
you
appreciate it a lot.
so, but for me at the same time, it's like if I'm with somebody and they don't even offer to ever pay for anything, then or they have an expectation that I should buy them a Birkin and pay their car payment and their rent and all that type of stuff. One is I would never do that. So that's one. But two is, the expectation is the problem. I like to do nice things for people that I love. So, but I like for it to be appreciated, and I like for it also to not be expected. If I buy you, a Birkin, it's because it's your birthday or it's Christmas, whatever it is. And, I feel like this is something that you like and you'll appreciate. So cool, I'll do that. But the expectation that, hey, he better buy this X, Y, and Z. I mean, too many girls are listening to, the city girls or whatever and think that they just,
Summer,
yeah, if he ain't spending it, da, da, da. And it's like, that's just not how it works.
That's a dead giveaway on one not to date.
Yeah, but there's a lot of tricks out there. There's a lot of dudes that
they can find what they want.
Yeah, they don't mind exchanging money for sex, and not as just like a prostitute type of situation, but more just a relationship. Hey, I'm going to pay your bills. I'm going to do this. I'm going to set you up. Yeah. And to me, that's lame. So
I agree.
To me, when it comes to any female that I've ever dealt with, and I feel like I could pull you if I didn't have money, because I feel like I have qualities or about myself that would attract you besides money. Money's just an added bonus.
Yeah.
So if I feel like money was the only reason why you were with me, then I wouldn't be with you. But I don't care if you're attracted to me at the beginning, because you're like, oh, because what women are actually really attracted to more than anything else is ambition. Mm. They don't like somebody who's just sitting around lazy, whatever. It's like he has drive, he has ambition, he's a go-getter, not just somebody just talking about it. Mm. Oh, I want to start my own, car detail business, but every single day you're sitting on your ass not doing anything to get it. Anybody who has ambition, verbalizes it, and actually believes it will achieve, right? So if somebody who's ambitious, to me, that's what women are actually most attracted to. So it has less to do with the actual money and more the hustle and the drive. Because a dude can have money and have inherited it, and in my opinion, I don't think that women are actually really attracted to that. Like,
yeah,
you have $5 million, but you do nothing all day, and it's your dad's money. Like, no, in my opinion, I don't think the women will be with him because they're using him for his money, but actually attracted to him because of his money. They're not attracted to that. They're attracted to the hustle and the drive, the ambition. Because I know women that have a lot of money and still want to do with money.
To your point, in a way, I kind of view, and some people don't like hearing this. I've even put it on my social media, and a bunch of girls didn't like hearing it, but I kind of sometimes view the dating world and like looking for partners and things like that almost like animalistic. Like, there is some qualities that animals, in the way that they look for mates, that we do, like you talked about a woman appreciating you having money. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, to me that's no different than, like, say a female lion wants the dominant male lion. He can provide certain things, he does certain things that are going to, she appreciates, a woman is going to appreciate a man who can provide, or a man who keeps himself in shape, or a guy's going to appreciate a woman who keeps herself in shape, or would mother children the right way, or different things like that. To say that we're not going to look for those things in mates, like, sometimes it goes too overboard the other way.
But it's just like if you say half of girls that's like, the whole dad bod thing. Mm-hmm. Why? Who is really actually attracted to a dad bod? Nobody. but they actually really, in their head, they really truly actually are attracted. But what is it? I feel like that dad bod is associated with something else. There's another quality that dad bod is associated with that they like, and they think they like the dad bod, but they really like the person. They like the characteristic that they feel like that person has with the dad bod. So it's like, but it looks, every single person that I've ever dated has dated someone ugly in their past. Yeah. And you're like, okay, you might think why, but it's because for the most part, women aren't that shallow when it comes to looks. It's like, does he make me laugh? Is he personable? Do I feel safe around him? Can he provide? things like that.
Those are valuable things.
Yes.
They appreciate
Yes.
them.
Men, nice pair of ass and titties and you're good to go. So like, it's like, is that going to keep them there? No. Right.
Yeah.
But that's what they're looking for first.
Right.
And then when they get that, not the more intelligent, sophisticated man or whatever that truly knows, but when you're younger, and even some guys that are older that aren't, where they need to be mentally, that's all, you see that's cool. That's what you like. That's what you're attracted to. That's what you want. Right.
Mm-hmm. Can't say it much better than that. So the last thing for the podcast that I always do is spotlight somebody or some company that I want to give a shout out to, and this one's a pretty easy one because I appreciate you in a lot of ways and what you've done for me over the years. So I just want to shout out Glow Tanning.
Appreciate
I'm going to put all their info that you need to get in touch with them, find them, their social media, everything on the screen, and then also in the description of the video. But other than that, I just really appreciate having you on, man. It's a pleasure.
Appreciate you. Thank you.